Welcome to the She Wins podcast. I'm your host, Heather Sumlin. Today I have one of my all-time favorite people, Kellie Sbrocchi. Kellie is a
Hi.
naval officer. She participated in pageantry. She's a public speaker. She's a podcaster. She does all the things. She's hashtag do both.
Do both, not do all.
Not do all.
We're doing both because we can't do it all at the same time,
We're
right?
doing two things. So tell me a
Yes.
little bit about what's happened since we chatted last. It was probably about 2.5 years ago when you were on the show, when I first started doing this.
Yes, it's insane how fast time is flying by. And I love that you've been through all of it with me. It's been such a joy to work with you, be friends with you, call you one of my close, intimate circle panelists. Like, I feel like I reach out to you when I need advice through all facets of life. And yeah, we spoke in 2024. I was prepping for Miss Illinois USA. They had just lifted the age restriction and I took advantage of it right away. And I literally didn't even give myself a second to think about it. I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm competing again. So I think they announced in September 2023. So I had until May of 2024 to prep and and get ready for Miss Illinois USA. And that was so fun, so different to navigate this time around, being married, having a more demanding career, having more responsibilities than I did when I was in Miss California USA prepping for that in 2020. So there was a nice 4 year break between the two. But yeah, finished there. Unfortunately, did not win, didn't walk away with the title, but it was my fifth Miss USA competition. Retired after that, hung up the shoes. Like, I was definitely so thankful for my journey, but I was ready to move on because it's a lot of time and energy and money and commitment and responsibility to balance all of those things. So since I just dove all into my podcast and speaking and my career in the Navy is always very difficult and a lot of responsibility, but it's been fun. So yeah, all good things.
Okay, so let's talk about something that's really, really helpful for people. So, which everything you say is helpful actually, but when we're heading to state competitions and
Mm-hmm.
they're happening now, and there's going to be, depending on the state, it could be 30 girls, 20 girls, 100 girls competing, and only one walks away winning. And so, what's your advice to those who they've worked so hard, just like you did, and they're walking away and they didn't get what they went for? And
Mm-hmm.
what's your advice to them?
So, my advice before you compete is to embrace your delusional confidence and remember why not you? Like, it
Yeah.
absolutely can be you. Focus on showing up, being your best self, competing at a level you'll be proud of, going all in. Why not? Just why not you? And every time I get ready to prep for a competition, that's what I remembered. I was going to, show up and focus on what I could control. I was going to be the most physically fit I possibly could. Mentally, I was going to prepare as best as possible, practice interviews. My wardrobe was going to be bar none. Like, all the things I could control, I was going to do. But I think there is a part of you that needs to be realistic when you're entering this sport. And it's that this is not, I'm a former runner, I was a D1 runner. And as an athlete, you can train, 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 and the numbers don't lie. If you are training to be the fastest, that's a metric that you can prove, right? So I would train, I wanted to break 5 minutes in the mile. The closest I ever got was 5:10. And I knew what I needed to hit in order to hit that time, to get first place, to walk away, right? In pageantry, you don't have those metrics. So again, there's a little bit of realism when you're picking this sport that at the end of the day, you have no control over the judges' opinions, their bias, what the organization is looking for, literally nothing. All you can control is yourself and your performance. So Every time I went into competition, I went in 100% knowing I had done everything I could. And walking away every single time without a crown, 5 times without a crown, I was still so proud of myself because I left no stone unturned. And with the skills you gain, say, when I competed in Miss California, I think there were 67 competitors. So I was runner up that year. So there were 66 girls that didn't win Miss California. And it's important for all 66 of them to have gained something they can take on into other areas of their life. So when I walked away from Miss California, runner up, didn't win the crown, I still launched all of these other things that I told the judges I wanted to do. I did them anyway without a crown. So there's still a whole life on the other side of this journey. And I think it's important that you align your platform and your passions and everything you're telling the judges that you want to do. You can still go and accomplish even without a crown. And I'm definitely a testament to that. Yes, we all want the flashy crown and we want to be able to say for the rest of our lives we were a Miss Blank USA or Miss USA, but life won't stop there. And there will be a life after this journey.
I love that because really, if you're going to be promoting a platform anyway, it needs to be something you're going to continue to put time, energy, and effort into as
Mhm.
yourself, whether you have a shiny hat or not.
Yes. Yes, you were the person that kind of accentuated the platform that was already there. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
helped me spotlight what was already within me, and I think that that's important for women that are competing. They shouldn't be creating a platform because they're doing a pageant. They should creating a platform because a passion already lied within them. And you do a really good job of isolating what that is and then building upon it. So the 3 years I competed before I found you, I made the mistake of constantly thinking like, oh, like mental health is a hot topic. Why don't I craft, mental health into my interview and say like that's what I'm going to speak in schools about. And it was always very vague. And then you were like, Kellie, you're a motivational speaker. We hadn't even branded hashtag do both at all. I was just talking about being a feminine woman in the military, trying to balance my personal professional life, and trying to get ahead of this stereotype and smash this stereotype. And you were like, why don't you just encourage women to celebrate the power that already lies within them? Like that's a skill that you have. Like you are out there motivating other women, encouraging them, empowering them through events and speaking, you are telling them to celebrate that power within. And I was like, oh, that's my platform. And I took that to Miss California and got runner up. And then that's what helped launched so much of my social media and podcasting later. Later, I rebranded it to just simply hashtag doing both because actually my followers were like, you're doing both. Just kept it very simple, but the platform, yeah, maybe rebranded, always existed in me already. Just had a different package.
I think it's so important though because when I was competing way back in the day, I was participating in pageantry, and the platform, concept, and idea in the Miss America organization had just started, and they were requiring you to have something that you cared about, and everyone told me what to do. Your dad's an
Yeah.
Olympic champion and he is a rifle shooter and you should care about the Second Amendment. And there was like accidental shootings that were happening, and the NRA had this program called Eddie the Eagle program, and you should do that, you should advocate for that because that would be really cool and it's topical and all these things. And I'm like, okay, but it didn't matter to me. Like I should have been doing like equine science or something because I cared about horses and I cared about animals and I cared about helping people. And so I just jumped on the bandwagon that people said I needed to be on and not necessarily really thought and did a deep dive. What do I want to advocate for no matter who I am? What do
Mhm.
I actually care about? And I didn't really consider it too much. It was also
Mhm.
really, really new. Nobody was really knew what we were doing. And now I just feel like it's so important that you have something that you really care about. Okay, so let's say,
Right.
all right, you walk away, you don't win.
Mhm.
For whatever, judges just decided something else. God had other plans, whatever you want to say.
Right.
But you walk away. You wanted this really, really, really badly. So, what was that Can you do a little bit of a backstory on how you were doing with the results, or
Oh my gosh, terrible. Both times, honestly. I it's so confusing because as I mentioned, you worked so hard and you know yourself well. Like if you gave 100% of yourself to this process or if you only gave 75%. Or you only gave 50% or you just showed up. Like you need to be honest with yourself. Did you truly do everything? And in the case of Miss California and in Miss Illinois, I did everything. Everything I could possibly think of to prepare myself physically, mentally, on social media, branding, and by the time Miss Illinois came, I had already essentially been acting as a title holder, but without a crown. I was speaking in so many schools and had really extended my platform. At that point, I had over 120,000 followers, and I just appreciated that people cared about the message, whether I had the sparkly hat or not. So I was very surprised that hard work didn't pay off because I just come from the belief of like, oh, eventually, hard work pays off. Like put in the work, put in the time, pray, have the faith, God will take care of you. And in both situations when I didn't walk away knowing I'd given it 100%, I was in shock. Like genuine shock. And Miss California, I gave myself in both cases I took a week off from work. Maybe not a week, maybe like 3 days after the pageant, like Monday through Wednesday or something. But I gave myself time afterward because I was either A, I'm going to be a title holder and I'm going to need like a couple of days to digest, or B, I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to need a couple of days to digest. And so in both cases, I took time off. And I think Miss California for the first 2, 3 days, I just sat in my sweats, eating cinnamon rolls and crying and not understanding like why. Like, why, when you work so hard and you're so ready for something and you have the heart to serve, that it wasn't you. And it was the same in Miss Illinois USA. I gave myself 3 days. I was sitting in bed wallowing. And I think it's important because you essentially feel like you just got dumped.
mm-hmm.
It's very similar to a breakup. And this dream just like broke up with you. I was like, I am not going to be Miss USA. And I need to process this information that this is truly like not going to happen for me. And then unfortunately after that it caused me to slip into a little bit of a depression. And I think it's something to be aware of whenever you want something so bad. It's okay to mourn the loss of that dream. And I let myself feel those feelings and I posted about it. And I shared transparently that for more than 2 months, I couldn't go down into my gym because when I would go down to my gym, it would remind me of all of the workout sessions I had to prepare for the competition. And the first time I tried to go down there and get on the treadmill, I cried and I walked out.
Mm.
It was just such a hard, again, it was like a breakup.
Yeah.
It's so hard because you don't have any answers, except your ex isn't talking with you, isn't giving you a reason why. You just walk away with absolutely no idea what you did wrong or if you could have done anything differently. But the thing is, you can't, because it's just like they always say, different rules, different judges, different day, different opinions, different bias. Like it's all dependent on that day, different results. And so I just gave myself time and I took a break for a year for the podcast. I didn't come back to the podcast until 2025. I didn't do any speaking. And during that time, it was because I had spent so much time motivating others. And that's what I wanted to do as a title holder. I wanted to motivate and inspire and empower others. And in those months, I was like, I just need to find a way to motivate myself,
Mm-hmm.
however that looks. Motivate myself. And I'd say it was probably about a year before I felt like I could go back to going on the platform and not talking about the pageant anymore and going back to the gym and feeling confident and being like, okay, what's next for me? Versus when I did Miss California, I got my answer really quickly because COVID happened. So yeah, I took all of February to wallow and be like, what the heck? I can't believe I didn't win. But I had a conversation with you in February of 2020, and you were like, well, why does it have to stop here? Why don't you start a podcast? And
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about doing a podcast. And so we had a brainstorming session and we thought of some branding names. And that was the inception of my podcast. And so when COVID happened in 2020 of March, that was only 2 months. So I didn't fall into a depression. I fell into kind of just action. Like, okay, I didn't win. What can I do? And I poured everything into social media and my podcast, which was very beneficial to the quarantine because I had so much time. And within a few months, I hit 10,000 followers on social media and I launched my podcast, which within 1 year, I think had over 50,000 downloads in just a span of a year. So I feel like you kind of fall into one of two. Like you fall into that depression because you feel like you've just gotten broken up with, or I recommend you fall into the action mode. If you have that moment where you can like use the recent pageant as like a catalyst, like take advantage of that too. There's no right or wrong, answer, but those are kind of the experiences I had. And I'm glad I gave myself a little time to wallow because everyone does. But then you'll move on and accomplish those dreams anyways, even though you don't have the title. That's okay. And I just spoke at Harvard 2 weeks ago, and it's a dream that I thought I would only be on these big stages because I was a former Miss USA or a Miss USA. And it turns out people actually want to hear my story, my platform, just because I'm Kellie, not because I have a title after my name. So like your messaging, your platform is still so valuable. So take the time you need. Um, be transparent with yourself and your audience and the people around you. And I think people really appreciate that. I think my followers, when I talked about the pageant afterward, they really love to see the other side of it because they're
Mm-hmm.
like, this is so relatable because more people will lose than win.
Oh yeah,
It's just the way it goes.
only one person walks away with the recognition they went in for. Only one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more than one person deserving of the title who's on stage. And the thing is, the reason that they're deserving is because of all the work that they've done, because of who they are as a person. And I mean, I was never even recognized in the finals. I mean, I didn't put in the work you did. But I also, I was never recognized. My name was never called. But that doesn't mean that all of the years that I invested into preparing, no matter how much work I put in or not, what I learned was valuable. The people I
Mm-hmm.
met, I mean, the other day I had a conversation with somebody that I competed with. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so incredibly cool to still have this connection. And that would have never happened if I wouldn't have done it. And
Right.
what I want people to understand is that you're not in control of the outcome. Therefore, the outcome cannot be the goal. That outcome goals are good for motivation to train. They are not good to be the only outcome that you'll consider.
Mm-hmm.
So winning becomes a bonus, not the
Right.
not the goal, not the prize. It's a bonus. It's the sprinkles on the top of the cake, and it's not even the icing. Because when we think about it, it's everything you learned along the way. If you had
Mm-hmm.
never done pageantry at all, do you think you would have been booked to speak at Harvard?
No,
And
never.
if you'd never done pageantry at all, do you think that you would have a successful podcast?
No, never.
I mean,
Social media, nothing. It all stemmed from what
mm-hmm.
I learned in pageantry.
And so
To be totally
therefore,
blunt. Not even the Navy, not
there.
even graduating from the Naval Academy. It came from my experiences through the Miss USA competitions I was in.
So here's the point for the people listening is that Kellie didn't need to win. Kellie wanted to win. It mattered to her. It was important to her. So much so that she took a year off of things to try to regroup and try to figure out, okay, what's next here.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't need it. She didn't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time the girl that wins doesn't need it. There's multiple girls on this stage that they've put this effort, time, energy, effort into it, and they've gotten to the point where I've received everything I needed from it, and I didn't realize the title wasn't a need.
Mm-hmm.
It was a want.
Right. I saw this quote the other day and it said something like, you can't fail if experience is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I reflected and I was like, yeah, I never really failed
Mm-hmm.
if experience was always the goal. Like my experiences through pageantry led me to so many different areas. And I'll just talk about something so simple. Learning how to do my makeup and be present myself. A powerful tool. One,
Mm-hmm.
as a woman, two, as a professional. But I am always like, I know how to do my own makeup, how to do my own hair. I practiced this before Miss California because we had to do our own makeup for competition. That was a skill I learned in 2019. Now I am on morning shows, national TV segments, podcasts, photo shoots, and that has helped legitimize my platform because on my platform, I always look very put together. And it's not, I don't have a glam team. It's just me that's doing that. And that was a skill I learned through pageantry. Same thing with these opportunities. Sometimes when, for example, I was just on a national news segment on PBS, and the interview was like 4 minutes, maybe. I had no idea how long it was going to be, 40 or 4. But you have to walk in and be very intentional about what you're going to say, right? Because think about pageantry. You get maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I think my interview for Miss California was 3 minutes. And so you have to walk in being like, I'm Kellie. This is what I stand for. This is what I want to do. This is what I've done. This proves I would be a good title holder. I'm your girl because of X. Like, done.
Mm-hmm.
And I do the same thing with my platform now. Like, I am Kellie. This is what I stand for. This is why you should tune into my podcast. This is what I believe in. I try and encourage people to do X, Y, and Z. And then, you taught me this, a couple stories in your back pocket, right? A couple
Absolutely.
go-to stories. I use that for everything in life. Whether I'm on a panel or I'm on a podcast or a national news segment, or I'm introducing myself to someone of high value. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in rooms with people I don't believe I should be in because I have imposter syndrome sometimes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, pitch myself. Right. And then that's led me to these opportunities that came from pageantry. That is a skill that you learned, and I want you to continue to sharpen because that will lead toward these other dreams that you may not have even realized you had yet. Like I never even had Harvard on my bucket list because I didn't even think it was attainable. I know I talked with you. I always want to do a TED talk. That was always a goal of mine.
Right.
But my connections have like led me to go to Harvard to speak. So you never know what those skills in your tool belt will help lead to. It's really, really cool to reflect back and think about all the things I learned through my experiences.
Okay, because I'm super curious and I think it would be helpful. What are like two or three sound bites you gave to at Harvard that would be helpful for people?
Oh my gosh. So my keynote is about leading authentically and then also how to do both. So depending on who my audience is, I'll tend to tailor it a little bit. But my platform, hashtag do both, it's all about balancing dreams with demands,
Mm-hmm.
living the life you want to have, or excuse me, I'm saying this wrong because I'm getting nervous because you're actually the person that taught me this phrase. It's balancing a life between dreams and demands, um, between what you have to do and what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Heather Sumlin quote. I said it at Harvard.
I was
But
quoted at
I know.
Harvard.
Cheers to Heather. Cheers to Heather. But sometimes people think like, oh, do both. It's just like being feminine in uniform. And what I like to break down is no, we all have things we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Have to do, whether you're a mom, you're a businesswoman, you're showing up to meetings. In my case, I have to show up in the Navy. I have to because I made a dedication to my country to serve and to show up and to my people. So I put that uniform on every day. But what I want to do is be full glam, go to events, record a podcast, go to a photo shoot, do social media. Like those are all things I want to do. And so finding the balance between those dreams and demand, that's doing both. That's what do both is. And so I've learned to kind of explain that on a larger scale or in a one sentence soundbite, right? But that all came from those interviews where I was explaining how I could do both as a title holder and as a woman in the Navy. Because I got asked that question at Miss California USA. They were like, you seem to be really busy. How does this play into what you're your goals are and how would you have time for this? And then you taught me this phrase. Well, it goes along with what I am already doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that word already was so powerful because I think it's hard to share in an interview everything you want to do as a title holder. I think it's important to share what you already are
Well,
doing.
anybody can have wishes and dreams of what they would do
Mm-hmm.
if they had a title, but if you're already doing it, then I can't argue whether or not you'll do it because you're
Mm-hmm.
literally already doing it. And so therefore it's more believable. I can believe you that you would
Right.
do those things because you already are. Plus, I don't think you should wait. Like, go ahead and do as much as you can before
Yeah.
you win so that you're more likely to win. And then if you don't win, well, you've already done a lot. And there's still, it's a
Right.
resume builder, it's excitement, it opens opportunities, there's networking, there's all the things that come along the way that's worthwhile. So why not?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think it's, there's what, 72 hours of a competition every once a year. There's so much space to fill in your calendar with things that you're passionate about that when you get to that competition and you've already been doing it, you've done those reps and sets, it's easy to speak about, the speaking engagements that you've done or the community service that you've had or those things that you're doing because it's fun, because it comes natural to you. So the hardest part is trying to figure out what to put on your bio instead of
Right.
reaching for straws, because you're spending your calendar exercising all of those talents, skills, and passions you already had. So that's what made it easier for me both times. I say both, not that I really wanted it for the 3 years I competed in Ohio, but it was definitely different when I felt ready. I put all the eggs in the basket. I knew I was ready to be a title holder the last 2 times I competed. And it's easier afterward once you've wallowed, you dealt with the breakup of the dream to get back into it because you already were doing it, right? And in my case, I think my audience found it more relatable that I was a runner up
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much failure in life, and I have a large pageant following. I also have a really large non-pageant following. I have people who don't know the difference between me being runner up in Miss California and one time I got stopped in the hallway by one of my sailors who was like, "Ma'am, weren't you Miss Universe?" I was like, "Whoa."
Love that. Oh, that's awesome.
That's a little bit of a leap here, friends. But they don't know the difference. All they know is that I showed up. I did my best. I was trying so hard to be a good representative of the Navy, and I truly believe I was. And so now I talk about my experiences in pageantry, but again, I've turned it in a way that people can relate to, like, oh, you pick yourself up no matter how many times you're knocked down, just get up one more time.
Mm-hmm.
And they can apply that to sport or going through the police academy. Or I just interviewed a woman who tried 6 times to get into the firefight academy and finally got in on her sixth try. Right. And I was like, oh, wow, I just said this 2 days ago. I was like, my onstage question at Miss California was about how I took the SAT 7 times to get into the Naval Academy. People
Mm-hmm.
respond to that tenacity. And so just because you didn't win, you still have a huge platform because people can relate to what it means to fail, but they need that encouragement to keep going.
Well,
And you could be that person to
and
encourage them.
let's be fair, success is not relatable. It's inspirational, it can be,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, people are going to connect with people who are imperfect. And
Right.
your message, your message. And so if you struggle, then you have a message to share. If everything comes easy and you always get what you go for, no one can relate to that. Nobody even likes that.
True.
And so you might not even have a following.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
That's very true.
but since we're talking about social media for a second, I'm going to jump somewhere that I always jump with you because you're one of the, I mean, everybody gets a little bit of difficulty online, but I feel like, it, how do I word it?
Say it straight, Heather. I know what you're trying to say.
The, some of the meanness that I have seen, because you've been very transparent, like you read your DMs,
Mm-hmm.
even the bad ones. you set yourself up to read them though. Like we talked about this before. That you're like, oh, I do read them, but I intentionally go through them when I know I can handle it. I
Mhm.
don't just go through them every day. Um,
Right.
but it's like there's this grace that you give people to be able to disagree with what you do and who you are, but you still feel the feelings. It's still
Mhm.
difficult. There's a lot of girls who are competing in pageantry and they need to prepare to have that thick skin and that ability to navigate hateful and rude comments. I mean, I wish that they didn't. I wish that the
Mhm.
internet was much more kind. I wish people would just, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all and definitely don't type it. But that's not the world that we live in. And so, at least not yet.
Mhm.
So what's your advice and what do you do that would be helpful to people who are having to navigate these things?
Well, first, a couple things. So, one, I've processed it in a way that when I read something really egregious, I remember that someone took the time out of their day to type this out. And it's because something about me, what I stand for, or what I said, or what I look like activates them,
Mm-hmm.
right? It activates them. And so, depending on what it is, most of the time I will say, well, this is exactly why I turn to social media and have a platform because, Jerry Smith 101, 70 years old, hates to see me in uniform thriving. And I remember that's why I exist, to
Mm-hmm.
remind women that they have a space, that they have a seat at the table. And I love that it activates Jerry Smith 101 because he's the kind of person I'm glad is out of the service now. And I want people to see other women like me who have a voice, who are powerful, who are smart, rising the ranks. And if it makes them uncomfortable, that's something they need to work through, and it's not your responsibility. So I first offload that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this really activated this person, say a quick prayer for them and then move on. Hopefully, they find a way to digest that
Ooh,
and
pause.
they offload that somewhere else.
Ooh, pause.
Um,
Ooh, pause. Hold
huh?
on. Hold. This is so it's well because I think it deserves attention. You literally said say a quick prayer for them and then move on. You didn't say move on.
Oh, yeah.
You said
Say a quick
say
prayer
a
for
quick
them.
prayer for them and then move on. Understand now, obviously not everybody who's listening to this probably understands why that's important, but what you're basically saying is I am going to give them I'm gonna allow myself to pray for someone, my enemy in this case to an extent. I'm gonna pray
Hmm.
for them. And I'm gonna take the time to give something to them that they didn't deserve, that they didn't ask for before I move on.
Hmm.
And I actually believe you do that. I don't even think you just said it like a
Oh,
phrase.
oh my gosh. Sometimes the most horrific ones, they'll stop me in my tracks and because there's a lot of them that don't phase me,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's some that there's a lot of heat behind it, right? Like this
Yeah.
person really passionately dislikes my platform or dislikes me. And I'll grab Austin and it helps to read it out loud. And because he's just like such a good filter, like
Mm-hmm.
he'll usually respond in like a very like unemotional way, and so he's just a good metric, left and right limits for me. And typically he'll be like, whoa, that's heavy. And I'll ask him, I was like, do you mind if we just stop for a second and just pray for this person? Because comments like that are, it's like Elwood's when she's like, happy people just don't kill their husbands. like happy people just don't write mean things on the internet. Like
Yeah, for
they
sure.
must be going through something or have some sort of deep rooted insecurity or unhappiness.
Oh yeah.
And I know for me, if I scroll and I feel some kind of way, like maybe I see a woman and I realize I something evoked jealousy in me, right? Like I see it and I'm like, oh, well, of course she won this award. We'll just say that's an example, right? Then I'll turn to myself and be like, wait, why did I respond that way? I'm like, oh, it's because I feel like I should be at this point in my life and I'm not yet. And then I'll stop and I'll pray and I'll say, Lord, please help me. I want to make sure that I understand, like, you have my path in mind for my own timing, and it's perfectly selected and planned out for me. And I just need the patience as I to celebrate others and celebrate others' wins and not be envious and just be
Mm-hmm.
patient. And so I try to, in myself, do that inner work. And so other people aren't doing that. They're
Yeah.
just going to the keyboard and they're upset, right? They're activated. So I'll pray for them because I don't think they're praying for themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't sound
So
like
I'll
they
just pray
are.
for you, sister. That's
Yeah.
fine. Jerry Smith 101 out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's good advice too, is because when you actually take the time to think something kind about someone who is unkind,
Mm-hmm.
and you put it in a category of they must be hurting to try to hurt me so bad.
Mm-hmm.
They must be hurting pretty bad. And it humanizes them to an extent
Yes.
and makes them less of an enemy and more of
Mm-hmm.
someone who deserves a moment of silence so that
Right.
they can hopefully someone can reach them to
Right.
help them work through whatever it is that they're going through to be able to send you some hate.
Right. The other part of it is I have rewired my brain to see hate as a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
to
You must be
see
doing
any
something
sort
right.
of trolling or
Yeah.
comments as a compliment. And here's why. I truly believe this day I stop getting trolled, the day I stop getting memes made of me or accounts made to make fun of me, all of which exist, is the day that I stop being relevant.
Mm.
So, as long as those exist, people still care, Heather. People still care. They are tuning in and they are watching, and they may not be liking, but they're watching. And I think if you're getting hate, it's because you're speaking out about something you believe in, and that's the point,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the point. If you're being so safe, so cautious, so media trained, oh, I don't want to hurt anyone's, I don't hurt anyone's feelings, and I just want to be super, super. I don't, then I think you're doing it wrong. I am very mindful. I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm trying to represent something that encourages and inspires and it impacts, and that tends to sometimes fall on the wrong side of the internet to people who don't need it. But it also 10 times more falls on the side of the internet that does.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I rewired it to see myself as relevant as long as I'm getting that hate. And again, that means I'm speaking out on something I believe in, and it's okay for not everybody to agree because not everyone is my audience. That's fine.
Well, and you get overwhelmingly more positive than you do negative, so that's helpful too.
Absolutely.
So you know that you're hitting your audience in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right on.
And I encourage all the title holders out there or girls that are competing, screenshot that first troll comment. Screenshot it. I wish I had it. The first time I got trolled, man, I would frame it because now some of the really horrific ones that are like kind of funny, I'll screenshot it and have a little folder in my phone because I'm like, these are just good for like happy hour. If I'm
Yeah.
having a dirty martini with, I'm like, guys, read some of these hilarious comments this week. And it's like just a good little talking point. So yeah, again, you've made it. You're relevant. If you're getting people who disagree with you, that's okay.
Well,
That's totally fine. Just
and it,
retrain your brain. It's compliment.
and we live in a world where you cannot possibly agree with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We all think differently. We have different experiences. You can't agree with everyone, and you shouldn't expect everyone to agree with you, and you shouldn't expect everyone to like you. I think everyone should like you. I like you, but it's okay
Thank you.
if they don't.
You're a
It's
little
all right.
biased.
A little bit, a little bit. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch over to the Patreon channel. So for those of you who are not a She Wins Solutions for Pageantry Patreon member, you're going to want to join because Kellie and I are going to do a little chat. And
Okay.
we're going to talk about some of the ways in which she has navigated switching from pageantry to other things going on in her life. Maybe a couple of tips for the pageant girls. We'll see. But if people want to follow you, not to troll you, but to actually support you, where do they find you, my dear?
You can troll me. No, I'm kidding. I do try to read every single comment and read every single message. It means so much to me. So you can find me, just my name, at Kellie.Sbrocchi. My podcast, last name Sbrocchi. It's a hard one, thanks to my Italian husband. But my podcast is Why Not hashtag Do Both Podcast. Everywhere podcasts can be found, Spotify, Apple, and my Instagram for that is just Do Both Podcast. So come see me over there. I would so love it. And I love my pageant community. Like, those are my sisters. I don't care if we didn't compete together. Like, I will respond to every pageant girl I possibly can because I love them. Absolutely.
Love it. Thank you so much for being with me.
Yeah. Thank you, Heather.
So much fun.